and welcome to a new episode of Story of Success, in which we interview successful Egyptian figures. We'll be back after the break, so stay with us. Our guest today is a celebrity Egyptian photographer who has acquired more than 142 awards, including 16 golden medals in the field of photography. I'm happy to have with me today celebrity photographer Mr. Ashraf Talat. I'd like to start first by asking you about your field of study. You've entered the Faculty of Agriculture and you've studied genetics. That's quite a hard field. Now, why did you choose genetics?
I think genetics is the mother of biology, and I love biology since I was in primary school, and I like it very much. And I choose to specialize in genetics because it's I think it's very interesting science, and I dream to be a specialist in genetics and chromosomes and genes and all of that.
Yes.
I like it.
You became a professional photographer in 1989, but before that, were you a photographer or did you use the camera as a child?
Yes, I actually in 1979. At that time, my father gives me, in my birthday, a camera to play with. But I found it so sophisticated equipment, and it needs to be adjusted. And I started step by step to use the camera in a proper way. And at that time, started my hobby.
Did you ever think that you'll be a professional photographer?
No, actually not. It was just a hobby, and it's still a hobby until now. Even if I am a professional, I still love the camera as a hobby, and not as a profession, because I'm using it for example, I do my job with the camera, and in my time, my free time, I use it as a hobby. This is maybe my only hobby until now.
Who were your first subjects?
Actually, I started with humans.
Yes.
Since I started to be a photographer, it was my concern to make photographs for human. I started in a studio, playing with the studio, playing with developing and printing photographs, and taking passport photographs for clients. I started to work during the summer vacations. And after, in 1989, I started to be a freelancer photojournalist. to work as a freelancer photojournalist to provide any magazines with photographs and stories and such this kind of photos.
Would you talk to us about photojournalism and the most characteristic features of it? When you're photographing as a photojournalist, is it different from being a regular photographer?
Yes, of course. It needs to concentrate in building stories with your photographs. It's not just a photographs for anything you like if you are an amateur, you move with your camera, you can make photographs for cats, for flowers, for walls, for buildings. But if you are a photojournalist, you need to build a story and send a message through your photographs. It's not only a generic photos.
What was the most memorable photograph you've taken?
I think in the circus life, the circus.
Wow.
Yes.
Tell us more about it.
I spent, I think, nearly 2 years visiting one circus to make a story about the training, about the tricks, about the show, how they feed the lions, how they live with them, how they interact with the animals, and how they how they work properly during the show. Wow. It's a very interesting topic.
What about the next step?
After the circus?
After the circus, yes, and photojournalism.
As a photojournalist, I made lots of stories regarding the human interest, the human culture, the human aspects, all everyday life situations, all of that.
How did you develop your talent?
By seeing work of other photographers and by watching millions of photographs and watching movies, because movies showing you how to play with the light, how to use the light in a correct way, because the most professional light or directors, they use the light properly in the films.
Did you enhance your talent by any type of courses?
We can't say courses, but photography, you can find a lot of informations in the books. And photography by doing, not by. You can, if you work as a photographer, you face many problems during shooting, and if you cross these problems, it teaches you how to use the light, how to use the shutter speed, how to use the f-stop for the lens, and all of the technical aspects of the photography. It needs to be in a proper way.
Do you use modern technology in your work?
We can't say it's a classic or modern or technology. Message is the same all over the history. Photography, maybe if you use the old-fashioned equipment and the modern equipment, it's at the end the photo is the same, 2 dimensions and proper composition and visual attraction, and by this you make a good photograph. But it's not a matter of equipment, it's a matter of or technology. It's a matter of how you see the things and how you compose your picture.
Have you ever used Photoshop in your pictures?
I use Photoshop in a way like I did before in the darkroom. Like I'm using cropping, dodging, burning, color correction, this kind of treatment for my picture.
Yes. What about your field of interest?
You know, I like the photographs which brings happiness and amusing situations. I like funny pictures, amusing situations, photographs that makes anyone smile. I don't like tragedy or sad situation. I don't like blood in my pictures. I love to be. When you see my picture, I think my success that makes in making anyone smiling.
You've traveled to more than 40 countries. Now, what do you do when you're traveling, especially in terms of photography? Like, do you carry a lot of equipment, or how do you work? How do you take the pictures when you're abroad?
During traveling, the most important for any photographer is to keep as little equipment as possible and as the smallest camera as possible. Because when you travel, you have to walk a lot, you have to discover situations, discover places. You need to use your equipment and not making anyone around you feeling that you are a photojournalist, or you will take these photographs for commercial purpose. When anyone asking me about why I'm taking pictures, I'm always telling I'm an amateur, and I am start to learn photography yesterday. I'm just a beginner, and I want to take photographs for myself. I never say that I am a professional photographer, and I'm using one lens, one camera, small camera, with 35 millis and 50s. Sometimes I'm changing the lens, 50 or 35 millis in all of my pictures.
what's usually the reaction of your subjects? Do they agree to pose? Do you take them while they are not taking care, or in, in the spurs of the moment, or do they pose for you?
Yeah. Actually, there is two types of photography. There is the street photography and documentary and storytelling photography. Street photography, you don't need any permission from anyone. You just pick up your camera and start to shoot anywhere without permission. But if you, in my photography or my style of photography, I am using the documentary and storytelling. That means that I have to stay with the people a long time, talking with them, building a kind of relationship with them, and then after I pick up my camera and start to shoot. At that moment, I feel that they are all the time trying to help me. They give me the good directions. Where can I make good pictures? They help me to make good photographs. I'm not stealing photography or photographs. I'm just building a relationship with people and spending with them maybe 3 or 4 hours, talking and discussing, and then and you can find it in my through my photographs. There is photos inside houses, inside families, inside communities.
You've published 2 books about photography. Would you talk to us about these books? Of course, they wouldn't have contained all your photographs, but tell us about your choice of pictures.
People Through the Lens, it was my first book. I made it in Italy. And it was just a human collection about, most of it was funny pictures. Point of view, it's a black and white book, and it's concentrated on circus life and a few from India in black and white compositions.
Yes. You've mentioned that you're interested in India and that you've traveled to India now. Would you talk to me about your collaboration with the Indian in Egypt, especially you've been awarded the prestigious award from the Embassy of India?
India, you can find everything around you when you walk in the streets. You can find all the life activities. It's easy to communicate with people. It's easy to build up a relationship and easy to start making documentary and storytelling photographs. India, in my opinion, is the optimum place for any photographer to make a story by photos. And I'm always mentioning to my colleagues, India is the paradise for documentary photographers. That's why I like India and work in India. It's easy to capture good photographs and good compositions and blending with the community of the Indian farmers or the Indian handcraft workers, all types of work you can easily engage with the Indians.
In 1990, you started working in the field of commercial and advertisements, especially photographing food. So would you tell me more about taking pictures and photographs of food?
You know, if you work, if you be a photographer, you need to earn your living, and you need to please yourself. My hobby is to make photographs for people, and I can earn money from selling fine art prints. But on the other hand, I can also earn my living, like food, fashion, any other types of photography which can bring income to me and to earn my living and pay my bills.
Do you choose the design or the way the food is set before you take the pictures? Or you just take
no,
it, or there is someone who takes care of that?
There is someone who take care of the stylist. Actually, the stylist who is the responsible person for display the food to be in a proper way that I can make a proper photograph.
and then you choose the angle.
Yes.
What about documentary photography? To what extent is it different from photojournalism?
Uh, Journalism could be flash news photos. You can capture a moment, you can capture photographs for an accident, or you can make street photography, but it's included, the photojournalism, the documentary. It's part of the photojournalism. The photojournalism is the big umbrella for the documentary and street photography, and there could be travel photography and all of these types of photography, which concern about human as the major part of this type of photos.
Mr. Ashraf, you're a fellow of Great Britain's Royal Photographic Society. You were even given the prestigious medal from the society. How did you join that society?
My mentor, Dr. Abdel Fattah Riyad, he chose for me to engage with, to be a member with the Royal Photographic Society in 1999, I think, I remember. And I joined, and then I started the distinction examinations, the licenseship, then the associatedship, then the fellowship. But the fellowship, you need to have a kind of original style for your photographs. You need to work with something belong to you. It's not normal photos. You need to have your own style to achieve this distinction level.
From your field of expertise, what's the future of photography in Egypt?
I think many photographers now, and the market is full of photographers.
Is it competitive? Does that make it competitive?
Of course it makes it competitive, because it was before hard to make good photographs with negative and slides, but now it's so easy, because you know your result immediately after you're shooting. But it was before, if you went in an assignment and you used a film or slides, if you didn't adjust your camera and you know exactly what you are doing, you can't achieve your goal.
You've been awarded more than 142 awards, including 16 golden medals. These are not the only golden medals you've been awarded, but these are the closest to your heart, that you wrote them on your CV, separate from the rest of the awards. Now, among the many awards you've been awarded, which is the closest to your heart?
The closest award to my heart, it's not a medal, and it's not a certificate. It's written on my book by the famous international photographer, the father of the photojournalist worldwide, Elliot Erwitt. He wrote for me appreciation that he loves and like my photos in one of my books.
Who's your mentor?
My mentor is, I think, Elliot Erwitt is my mentor.
Would you tell us how do you work? How do you choose a picture, and how do you operate? What do you think when you're taking a picture?
Photography, it's about discovering. Photojournalism or documentary or travel photography, it's about discovering. not thinking. Thinking could be for conceptual photography or commercial. That the photographer think what to do and how to compose and how to arrange the elements in the picture. But when it comes into photojournalism or documentary traveling, it's about discovering. You see things and then you discover it and then you think how to shoot afterwards, but not before.
Finally, I'd like to ask you about your dreams.
My dream is to go in a nice place and to make better photographs than what I did before.
Celeb photographer Mr. Ashraf Talat, thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you.
That was celeb photographer Mr. Ashraf Talat. We've learned a lot about him. We've learned how photography has been his hobby since he was 14 years of age, how he entered the Faculty of Agriculture and studied genetics. Then in 1989, he became a professional photographer. We've heard about his techniques in working, how he's interested in the human aspect, as well as in India as well, and many other topics. We've learned about has been awarded more than 142 awards, and we've discussed some of his works as well and the future of photography from his point of view. And by this we come to the end of this episode of Story of Success. Until we meet again, it's goodbye.